Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Catalyst Countdown. This time, we'll be doing a relic recap of all of the relics that have been revealed for the Catalyst Leagues for RuneScape 3 that's coming out on September 15th. There's a lot to talk about because a lot of information has come out this week. So timestamps will be below if you want to just look up a specific relic. Starting off with Banker's Note. That's right. The Note Goat is back. So this is one of the all-time favorites from old school RuneScape leagues. So you'll receive the Banker's Note item, which actually allows you to access your bank almost anywhere. In addition, you can also activate this to note and unnote items in one action. There's actually a really convenient menuing that you can use with the Banker's Note. It takes a little bit of time to figure it out, but once you kind of know how to use it, it's really easy to note and unnote items. And you can also do it by set amount. So let's say you have a stack of 100 sharks, you can unnote 5 of them. And while this is one of the strongest relics that old school RuneScape leagues has ever had, I'm sure that a lot of people playing RuneScape 3 leagues might be a bit more, hesitant about this just because you already have so many options to quickly bank your stuff through porters and things like that. However, what really brings this relic up to that insane tier, and why it's so much fun to play for me at least, is because you can also use this in a lot of PVM scenarios as well. In old school RuneScape, this allowed me to do some very, very early Inferno attempts because I would just bring in the whole refrigerator. I would have, hundreds and hundreds of food and hundreds of prayer potions and basically as much supplies as I needed to sort of brute force any PVM content, even if I wasn't very confident or if I didn't have the gear and the stats for it. That being said, if you are somebody who's very experienced with the game, I would be a little bit hesitant with this just because, in my experience, after playing with it for a while, it does sort of trivialize a lot of content because once you have the Banker's Note, if you're really good at the content anyways, it becomes really, really hard to die. And I think it kind of takes away a little bit from the game there when you're just you basically just have infinite supplies anyways. And there might be another relic that this is going up against that might be a bit more fun for you if you're already pretty good at PVM. Not much more to say on this. Banker's Note, it's a lot of fun to use. Really, really sick. And it feels really bad not having it afterwards. Next up, we got the full suite of combat relics. These are typically given to you pretty early around tier 3, tier 4. So this is probably something you'll unlock in the first day. And RuneScape 3 has 4 of these, as there's also necromancy along with the mage, melee, and ranged combat triangle. And all 4 of these combat relics share the first 3 bullet points. Basic attacks will generate 2 times adrenaline. Adrenaline is the resource used to cast your threshold and your ultimate abilities. These are kind of like the big flashy abilities that you use in RuneScape 3. And if you've never played with RuneScape 3 combat system before, there is a setting called Revolution, which will automatically cast the abilities once you get enough energy to spend them. So even if you're doing that, you'll still just automatically cast more stuff. Ability and special attack cooldowns are reduced by 20%, and attacks have 100% hit chance. That 100% hit chance is really, really good. I don't think accuracy in RuneScape 3 matters quite as much as old school RuneScape. Again, I'm pretty limited on my PVM experience, so I could be talking on my ass here. But in the last leagues, a very popular build was the ranged route, which had 100% accuracy. And this allowed you to combo it with all sorts of weird tank items and basically build a full tank ranger, and you were still doing max damage even with very, very weak range weapons, as you didn't really have to worry about accuracy and you can kind of just send whatever. And this 100% hit chance should make pretty much all of these relics feel really damn good, and you should be able to use your kind of chosen style for pretty much all combat. That's kind of the intention behind these, is that you'll pick one of these combat relics, and that's sort of what you're for the most part using and building around for the entire leagues. Now, going into kind of the specific perks of every single combat style, starting with melee, your weapon attack range is increased by 1, so you'll actually have a little bit of distance, and this should make some of the more melee unfriendly fights a lot more easy to do. Melee base damage is increased by 500. Unfortunately, I can't really say exactly how strong this is because I don't really have the best frame of reference for this stuff. But increasing base damage is really damn powerful. This should make melee one of the stronger just as soon as you get this, it should significantly increase your damage because this is before any multipliers. It's not adding 500 to your final damage, it's increasing the base damage before any multipliers. And finally, you will heal for 10% of your damage dealt. This is incredibly broken in leagues because your damage is already so high. And so healing for a percentage of that when your damage is already scaled so high, it actually, I mean, it really snowballs like crazy, and it kind of makes you like unkillable in a lot of scenarios. You can kind of just like face tank a lot of damage. I really love lifesteal relics, and so I think this is going to be a great pick. Okay, next up for range, you have a 95% chance to save ammunition, and all single target range attacks will also be cast on up to 9 additional enemies within 1 tile of the target. I don't think it's a big shocker here, but I think that this is pretty underwhelming just because it doesn't really have anything going for it, honestly. I think that this AoE effect is something that sounds really cool, and it kind of sound like it looks really cool, but it doesn't actually matter all that much. I'm sure there'll be some cool setups that people will come up with. But I am not that good at this game, so I don't know those off the top of my head. I do think Slayer is a pretty annoying skill to train, though, in leagues, and we haven't yet seen like a Slayer relic announced. So this might actually be good. You do want to get your Slayer done as fast as possible, having just a huge AoE ability that you can just blast all your Slayer tests down. It might actually be kind of good. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty disappointed. I feel like we're missing like 2 more bullet points on this one. Having a chance to save ammo, I mean, I guess that's cool, but it's one of those things that I think should almost like be default. It's not really that interesting. It doesn't actually change how you're playing the game. Next up, the Mage Relic. Magic crit damage is increased by 50%. You have a 95% chance to save runes, similar to the Range Relic, and magic crit damage is increased by 50%. Just like the Range Relic, this is pretty uninspired. It just kind of adds to your damage. I don't think it's really changing that much. I mean, you're going to have really big crit numbers, but I guess like just again, for me personally, I'm kind of struggling to really care about this all that much. I don't know how important crit is. And finally, for necromancy, your spirits are 25% larger and deal 25% more damage. I think the larger thing is just cosmetic. I don't know if that actually changes anything, but I mean, it's still kind of cool. You have a 95% chance to save ectoplasm and runes. Makes sense, just like the others. And you'll also unlock all abilities from the Necromancy Well of Souls talent tree. This is like an unlock system in Necromancy. You'll just have all of them available. So to me, I think the clear winner here is melee. I think it actually adds a fundamental difference to your game, both in the increased base damage, the increased attack range, and also that lifesteal. You're kind of getting like 2-in-1 relics there, in my opinion. And the others, I mean, I feel like they could have read like do 25% more damage and not that much would be different. So I'm a little underwhelmed with all of the other ones, but I do think melee is probably going to be the most like fun pick. And if you're completely new to the game, melee might still be kind of hard just because you are limited to attack range. So necromancy is probably like a nice, really safe pick. Honestly, I played with necromancy for a little bit, and it's like brain dead easy. It's super easy to figure out, not very complicated, not a lot of abilities. But I think that simplicity can be a little bit boring. So, you know, if you want something a bit more complicated, I'd probably choose one of the other styles. If you want something very straightforward, very easy, never tried necromancy before because you're coming from old school RuneScape, yeah, necromancy is probably a really safe pick. Honestly, I think you're going to be fine with any of the relics. I mean, you're still going to be really damn strong. You're still going to have no trouble like doing most content, in my opinion. Personally, I'm just going to be going with range because I think that dual crossbows are really cool. What can I say? I'm an ADC main at heart. So, and also my hot take on this is you're actually going to be allowed to pick 2 out of the 4 of these combat relics. So we'll see what happens. Okay, next up, we have 3 new teleport relics that got announced as well. Similar to combat relics, teleport relics are something that you'll probably be getting very early on. These are traditionally found in the tier 3 slot. So this is something you might get in the first 2 to 3 hours of the game. You'll be a little bit limited on transportation until then. And once you get your tier 3 transports, you really can open up the game because you have access to such a massive transportation network, like on your first day playing leagues. Starting off with Fairy's Flight, this provides you a fairy mushroom that allows you to teleport to any fairy ring, any spirit tree, or any farming patch. Next up, Assassin's Insight. This gives you the Skull of Slaying that allows you to teleport to any of the Slayer Masters, any of the Slayer dungeons, as well as a bunch of Slayer monsters. You'll teleport right to their location as well. and Voidwalker, which gives you the Abyssal Conduit. This gives you teleports to a bunch of different jewelry items, such as Amulet of Glory, Combat Bracelet, Ring of Dueling, Skills Necklace. You can see there's a ton of them. Very similar to Eternal Jeweler that we've seen in old school RuneScape leagues. Now, in RuneScape 3, my personal experience is that getting around the map is a lot easier, and teleports aren't as like significant to your progression. So I don't personally see this as, a crazy difficult pick. Whereas some of the teleport relics in old school RuneScape were very meaningful, as getting around is a lot harder in old school RuneScape. For me personally, though, I always try to prioritize relics that fundamentally change your game plan and they make you approach the game in a new way. That's sort of the beauty of leagues. That's what makes it fun for me. That's what makes it so memorable for me. In previous old school RuneScape leagues, Fairy's Flight allowed you to teleport to any tool leprechaun. And that was really fun trying to relearn the game and try to figure out, what tool leprechauns go to what hotspots. Clue Compass was a relic that let you teleport to all the clue stashes. And this had some really weird things like making the Shiloh Village Bank, which was right next to a stash. That was like the hotspot. That was like the main hub of leagues. And with that in mind, I think Assassin's Insight is going to be my pick just because, well, it's probably the one that I understand the least and is probably the most like confusing for me to wrap my mind around. Yes, this will make Slayer a lot easier because you'll be able to get around, get to your Slayer task faster, but that's not really what I'm picking it for. It's more that I think this is a very novel and a very new way of playing the game and having to think about, okay, well, what Slayer task, what is that next to? What can I go? How can I simplify my routes by teleporting there instead? That's a really fun and new way of kind of experiencing the game. If you're somebody who doesn't really want that, if you want a more simplified, just straightforward transportation, I would probably just go with Voidwalker. It is a lot of different teleports, a lot of very good jewelry, and I think that you'll have no problem at all getting around the map with Voidwalker. And I actually skipped this one because I wanted to save it for the end, but we also got Ascension announced. This relic gives you a 5% chance to empower you with the Stone of Jas and increase your combat stats to 255. That's your level. So instead of being like 99 attack, you'll go to 255 for 6 seconds. In addition, you'll get the Elder God Book, which contains the effects of all of the Combat God Book. And from what I understand, every 5 seconds, the game will roll to see what buffs you get of this vast selection of buffs. And it's actually possible to get more than one of them. So you can sometimes, stack up multiple buffs. You might even be able to get all of them and really empower yourself in a crazy way. I absolutely love this relic. I think it is so cool. And I think it's one of the first relics we've really gotten that only works in RuneScape. Like it feels very built and very structured and very designed with RuneScape 3 leagues in mind. I think this is going to provide some really funny clips of people getting empowered and just blowing up monsters because it is a ton of stats that you can possibly get. And while I don't know all of the combat god books, from what I've kind of read, it's just a bunch of like damage procs or you do like a big AoE splash or getting a little bit of, percentage damage, things like that. It's just a bunch of different procs. For anybody that's played World of Warcraft, this actually reminds me a lot of Outlaw Rogue that had Roll the Bones, where your main primary cooldown was like you got to like roll a bunch of different buffs, and sometimes like the stars would align and you would get like all the buffs and get hit with just this massive damage bonus that would just completely skyrocket your DPS. I really love seeing things like this in leagues that just feel leagues like they would not function in the normal game. Like you just could not have it. And personally, I think this is the relic that makes me like the most jealous. It's like, oh, I wish I could get that in old school RuneScape league someday, because I think just getting this random like huge DPS spike, it's just gonna feel really damn fun. And one more to talk about, Specialist. This will give you the Elder Essence of Finality amulet. I wanted to start off with this because I believe that this is just straight up like the best amulet in the game. So you're already getting that basically for free, and it will allow you to select any special attack from a menu without even needing the weapon. So, very hard and difficult weapons to grind out, like the Fractured Staff of Armadale, things that you might not even have access to yet. You'll actually be able to use those special attacks without having to go and get it yourself. Every 15 seconds, your next special attack will consume no adrenaline, so you'll be able to just spam these out for free. And special attacks deal 50% more damage. Now, in old school RuneScape, Weapon Specialist has been one of the strongest relics pretty much every single year, and it allows you to just spam bosses down and do some pretty ridiculous things. Kill bosses in like 3 seconds. And while I don't think it's quite that strong here, as you will still be gated by that 15-second cooldown. That being said, I don't really know enough about RuneScape 3 special attacks, so I don't know quite how impactful they are or how vastly they're used or how important they are for clearing content. I did want to point out though that while every 15 seconds your next special attack will consume no adrenaline, I don't actually know if special attacks themselves you'll be able to use it every 15 seconds, as I believe specs also have a cooldown built in as well. And I don't know if those special attacks will also have their cooldown essentially brought to that 15-second timer outside of the combat relics, which reduce special attacks by just 20%. So this might mean that the specialist relic, you might have to do a lot more weapon swapping and playing around with a bunch of different specs. And that might actually be like a pretty fun thing to try out. I think that in old school RuneScape, specialists can get a little bit one dimensional when you just use the same spec like 5 times in a row and kill a boss right away. So I think having to bring, 3 or 4 different specs and then alternating between them every 15 seconds, that might actually be like a really fun and engaging way of, playing the game and trying out a whole bunch of different weapons that you ordinarily never would. Now, just like Ascension, this is a pretty powerful relic. And I think that this is probably something you're going to see at the end of the relic tree. So probably tier 7 or tier 8, depending on how many tiers we get. And the idea behind relics like this is that even if you're not very experienced with PVM or, you're kind of new to it, maybe you haven't played RuneScape 3 before, by the time you actually get all of your relics unlocked, you will be so much stronger and almost feel like you put on like cheat codes on the game. And that will allow you to sort of get your entryway into a lot of these harder PVM challenges. I know personally that a lot of the bosses I did in old school RuneScape, the first time I ever tried them was in leagues, and then actually doing it in the main game, I had that experience. It was a really fun way of challenging myself to content that I didn't think I was good enough yet. I'm definitely trying to do the same thing with RuneScape 3. I'm trying to really, get into a lot of PVM content. So I really love seeing relics like this, and I'm really excited to kind of get a chance to play around with them. Even if they mean they'll probably carry me through all the bosses. I'm pretty sure something like Specialists will be up against Ascension. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about these together at the end. And while I can't really say the power level necessarily, I would definitely consider more of a passive style versus an active style and what kind of player you are and how you want to approach the leagues. If you like passive relics that you don't really have to work with and they just kind of do stuff on their own, Ascension's going to be a great pick. It's just going to randomly make you a lot stronger. Probably going to have some really funny moments. It's going to be a good time. Whereas specialists, you'll probably need to think about it a little bit more and kind of plan how you want to use those. It's not just going to automatically cast all your specials for you. You're going to have to actually press them. But if that's something you like to do and you like to, think about how it can weave into your rotation, this is going to be a fantastic relic. It's going to be a lot of fun to use. Anyways, that's all for the relics that I have to talk about today. I know there's a lot. Before I close it off, I did want to talk about one last thing, and that's that all of the easy and medium tasks, these are like the first 2 levels of difficulties, all of those tasks have been announced. So if you're somebody who enjoys day 1 planning, day 1 theory crafting, getting your efficient route all set up, you can already go and start planning kind of what tasks you want to complete. When do you want to go out of your way to get some of these done and sort of start to craft your day 1 route? One thing I would definitely recommend, as somebody who's done some day 1 routes myself, try to avoid any kind of tasks that involve bottlenecks, because on day 1, there's going to be so many people at some of these hotspots that, if there's like 2,000 people trying to kill the same chicken, it's not going to work. So being a little bit creative and going a little bit out of the ways and trying to save some of those tasks for later that just don't work when there's so many people competing for the same spot is a great way of structuring your early game route and kind of allow you to snowball through those early relic tiers. Basically, don't go kill the lesser demon. It's not worth it. Anyways, that's it for me. I'm excited to see what new relics are coming up in the days ahead, because there's only 1 week left until leagues. And I'd be really interested to see like the completed relic tiers, which relics are up against what. I know there's a lot of speculation, but until there's some confirmation, I'm always a little bit, skeptical. And I'll see you guys very soon.